The day I walked into my high school reunion, my hands were shaking so badly, I had to pretend I was fixing my jacket. I told myself it was just nerves, just old ghosts, but deep down I knew it was fear. Fear of being seen exactly as I was. A tired single dad with 3 identical faces clinging to his past, carrying a life that never turned out the way he promised himself it would. I didn't know then that this night, the one that would humiliate me in ways I still feel in my chest, would also quietly set the stage for a miracle I never saw coming. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us life can still surprise us, please take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you know. I arrived at the reunion straight from work, wearing a suit that used to fit better when I bought it years ago, for job interviews that never led anywhere. The fabric was shiny at the elbows, and the shoes had been polished in a rush, while my triplets argued over who got the blue cup at dinner. I could still smell their shampoo on my hands, the cheap kind I bought in bulk, because it was the only one that didn't make their skin itch. I left them with my neighbor, a retired nurse who watched them sometimes for free, though I always felt guilty accepting her help. Walking into that ballroom felt like stepping into a museum of the life I never lived, faces frozen in success, laughter loud and confident, the kind that comes from knowing you made the right turns when they mattered. I saw my ex almost immediately. She stood near the center of the room, glowing in a way I remembered too well, wearing a dress that looked effortless and expensive. She had always known how to shine when people were watching. Back then, she said she wanted a big life, travel, comfort, admiration. I wanted stability, quiet mornings, children running through hallways. We loved each other once, but love doesn't survive when dreams pull in opposite directions. She saw me before I could turn away, her smile polite at first, then sharp with recognition. I felt small as she approached, every step she took reminding me of everything I hadn't become. She asked about my life in that careful way people do when they already sense the answer. I told her the truth, that I worked 2 jobs, that I was raising our triplets alone after she left, that most days felt like a balancing act I was failing in slow motion. She laughed, not cruelly at first, but loudly enough for others to hear. She talked about her travels, her new partner, her lifestyle, comparing it all to my reality as if it were an interesting anecdote instead of my life. I could feel eyes drifting toward us, curiosity turning into quiet judgment. When she mentioned that she could never imagine being stuck like that, something inside me cracked. I nodded, smiled, and took it, because that's what I had learned to do. Take it and keep going. I left the room early, claiming I had to get home to my kids. The truth was I couldn't breathe in there anymore. Outside, the air was cold and clean, and I leaned against my old car, the one with the dented door and the child seat squeezed into the back like a permanent reminder of responsibility. When I opened the door, 3 small voices called out for me at once, relief washing over their faces when they saw me. My triplets had insisted on waiting up, despite my instructions, their pajamas mismatched, hair still damp from hurried baths. In that moment, the humiliation faded into something else, something steadier. They needed me. That was enough, even when it hurt. Over the next weeks, life returned to its usual rhythm of early mornings, packed lunches, missed bills, and late nights. I drove the kids to school, worked shifts that blurred together, and came home to laundry mountains and math homework. Some nights, after they fell asleep, I sat in the dark and wondered how close I was to the edge. I loved my children with a depth that scared me, but love didn't pay rent or fix the car when it made that worrying sound. Still, I showed up. Every day I showed up. One afternoon, everything shifted in the smallest, strangest way. I had taken the kids to the park after school, the cheap one with cracked slides and uneven grass. They ran ahead of me, laughing, identical jackets flapping behind them like bright flags. I sat on a bench, scrolling through job listings when I noticed a man watching them. He wasn't staring in a creepy way, just observing, smiling softly, dressed simply but with an ease that suggested money without needing to show it. When the kids tripped over each other in a tangled mess of limbs and giggles, I rushed over, apologizing out of habit even though they were fine. The man stood up and helped me steady them, his movements calm, practiced. He asked about them, about their ages, about how I managed with 3 the same age. I answered honestly, not realizing at first who he was. He listened in a way people rarely do, not glancing at his phone or looking past me for someone more important. Later, I learned he was a billionaire, someone whose name appeared in articles about innovation and philanthropy, a man who could buy the park if he wanted to. At that moment, he was just someone who saw me. We met again after that, not formally, just crossing paths in ordinary places. He'd stop to say hello, ask how the kids were doing, remember their names. He noticed things like how one of them always hung back, how another protected the third without realizing it. One day, after watching me juggle grocery bags and tired children, he offered help, not in the form of money at first, but opportunity. He asked about my skills, my past work, the dreams I once had before survival took over. I spoke cautiously, embarrassed to admit how small my ambitions had become. Slowly and possibly, doors opened. He connected me with people who valued reliability over flashy resumes. I got a job that paid enough to quit the night shifts, then one that offered flexibility so I could be home for dinner. My life didn't transform overnight, but it shifted, like a train finally changing tracks after miles of going the wrong way. I learned later that he had grown up poor, that he recognized something in me he once saw in his own father. He never made me feel like a charity case. He treated me like an investment worth believing in. Months passed, and the weight on my chest eased. I started sleeping through the night. The kids grew taller, louder, more confident. I could afford better food, new shoes, a small vacation to the beach where they saw the ocean for the first time and screamed as the waves chased them. I stood there watching them, tears mixing with salt air, realizing how close I had come to breaking, and how close I had come to missing this version of my life. The reunion memory lingered, though, like a bruise you keep pressing to see if it still hurts. Then, one evening, an invitation arrived to a charity gala. The billionaire, now a friend, asked me to attend with my children. I almost said no. I didn't own anything suitable, and old insecurities crept back in. But I went. We stood under bright lights, my triplets holding my hands, dressed in clothes that fit them properly for once. I felt proud, not because of where we were, but because of how far we'd come. My ex was there. I saw the surprise on her face when she noticed us, the confusion when she realized I wasn't out of place. I didn't seek her out, didn't need to. The night wasn't about proving anything. It was about standing tall in a life I had built from scraps and stubborn love. When the billionaire spoke, later he talked about resilience, about unseen heroes, about parents who sacrificed quietly. I knew then that being humiliated had not been the end of my story. It had been the turning point. Before the ending of this story, I want to ask you something special. Please take a moment to comment below and share what part of this journey resonated with you the most, or if you've ever faced a moment that later turned into a blessing in disguise. Today, my life is still busy, still imperfect. The car still has that dent, the mornings are still loud. But there is laughter in our home, security in our fridge being full, and hope in the plans I make without fear choking them. I learned that being seen at your lowest can feel like the end, but sometimes it's the only way the right people can truly see you. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness can arrive from unexpected places and change everything, please like, comment, and share this video. Your engagement helps these stories reach others who might be standing on the edge, wondering if anyone sees them too.